The vast black of space was silent, but silence had a way of lying. In the void beyond the rim systems, the Galactic Empire's forward fleet floated like a wall of steel and plasma. Thousands of warships stood ready, their guns pointed at a single blue planet hanging like a jewel in the darkness. Humanity's homeworld. The Emperor's voice echoed through every command deck. This is their last stand. Make it clean. Make it fast. Admiral Kareth nodded, his golden eyes cold and confident. He had fought 100 campaigns. Every time the enemy burned. Every time the Empire won. Humanity, he sneered, primitive creatures with iron and arrogance. The fleet advanced. The first wave of plasma fire streaked across the void, tearing through human defense satellites. Earth's orbital stations broke apart like glass. A few brave human ships fought back, but their railguns and missiles barely scratched the Empire's shields. It was over, or so Kareth thought. Then came the transmission. A human voice, calm and steady, echoed through every Imperial ship. This is Admiral Hayes of the Terran Defense Command. You have fired upon a protected world. Stand down now, or face full retaliation. Kareth laughed. Full retaliation? From what? You've already lost. No answer. Just static. Moments later, a blip appeared on the long-range scanners, then 10, then hundreds. A formation, massive and slow, was approaching from behind Jupiter. Imperial officers scrambled, reading the data. Impossible, one whispered. That's not planetary defense. That's a fleet. A shadow moved across the stars. The first Terran warship emerged, an enormous black vessel the size of a small moon. Its hull shimmered with strange energy. The ship carried scars of old wars, but its engines burned with cold blue fire. The Empire's sensor systems struggled to identify it. The readings made no sense. The ship was old, yet its power readings were higher than anything in the database. Kareth's second officer spoke softly. Sir, this design, it matches no known registry. Where did they get these ships? Kareth's voice shook with disbelief. They didn't have this tech before. The human fleet spread out. There were hundreds of ships now, different shapes, sizes, and banners. Some bore Earth markings, others strange, unknown insignias, ships that didn't belong to any known human nation. Some looked ancient, others impossibly advanced. A low rumble echoed through space as the human flagship's weapons powered up. A deep, rhythmic pulse shook through every Imperial sensor array. Warning, said the computer. Energy levels exceeding theoretical limits. Then the Terran Admiral's voice came through again. You thought this was humanity's full fleet? You were wrong. You've only seen the children. The Empire's bridge crews froze. Children? On the Empire's command bridge, Kareth felt cold sweat on his scales. The human ships aligned in silence, then opened fire. The first salvo didn't just strike. It erased. Imperial battleships vaporized under the impact of kinetic slugs traveling near light speed. Plasma beams carved through entire squadrons. Every weapon hit with terrifying precision, guided by something beyond AI, something alive. Who are these people? A young officer screamed. Kareth couldn't answer. Within minutes, hundreds of Imperial ships were gone. The fleet's proud formation broke apart as panic spread. The Empire had never lost this fast, not even to the ancient Varan war hosts. Humanity's fleet moved like a single mind, each ship predicting the other's motion, every maneuver a perfect dance of destruction. And then something even stranger happened. Among the human forces, new arrivals dropped out of warp, ships not of human design at all, alien hulls but bearing Terran symbols. Former enemies now flying together under one flag. The Terran alliance was larger than anyone in the Empire had imagined. Old rival races that the Empire had destroyed centuries ago now stood beside humanity. Impossible, Kareth whispered again. They were extinct. They were, came the voice of Admiral Hayes, calm and cold. "Until we brought them back." A massive explosion rocked the Imperial dreadnought Aurelian. Fire filled the bridge. Kareth fell against the deck as alarm screamed. "Sir, we've lost half the fleet." He stared at the screen. Humanity's ships were still advancing. And behind them, something else was coming through the wormhole. A structure. No, a city. Floating through space. Massive rings, towers, and lights stretching for kilometers. A mobile fortress. Humanity's true command hub. Kareth's mind broke for a moment. He had thought the Empire's war machine was unmatched, but now, for the first time, he felt fear. Deep, old, primal fear. The Emperor's voice returned through the comms, furious. "Admiral Kareth, retreat! Regroup!" But Kareth couldn't move. His gaze was fixed on the screen, because as the fortress drew closer, a symbol appeared on its hull. A simple blue circle, divided into 7 parts. The mark of the First Fleet. The legends whispered across human colonies had been true. Humanity's first interstellar fleet, lost centuries ago, had returned. And they weren't alone. Kareth's ship shuddered as power failed. Darkness filled the bridge. Outside, human weapons burned through the Empire's last line. The Admiral spoke once more, his voice echoing through the wreckage of Imperial pride. "This was only a fraction of our strength. We showed you mercy once. There will not be a second time." As the Imperial fleet broke apart, one truth spread like wildfire through the Empire. Humanity had not shown its full power. Not yet, and somewhere in the silence of space, the rest of the Terran fleets began to wake. The wreckage of the Imperial fleet drifted through the void like glowing ash. Twisted hulls and shattered armor floated silently as the surviving ships limped back toward Empire-controlled space. For the first time in living memory, the mighty Galactic Empire had been defeated, completely and utterly. Admiral Kareth sat motionless on the dark bridge of his crippled flagship. The lights flickered weakly, casting shadows across his scarred face. The weight of disbelief crushed him. His entire life had been built on the certainty of Imperial dominance. Every battle had ended the same way. Until now. Reports came in from other sectors. Human forces weren't chasing. They had stopped at the border, almost as if they were warning the Empire to stay away. That restraint terrified Kareth even more than the destruction. He whispered, "They could have wiped us out. Why didn't they?" Back on Earth, Admiral Hayes stood aboard the command platform of the Unity Citadel, the massive fortress that had entered the battle last. Around him, holographic displays showed fleets repositioning, repair drones at work, and new signals arriving from deep space. Hayes looked older now, though his eyes burned with the same cold fire. "Send the message," he ordered. A young officer nodded. "To whom, sir?" Everyone. Across human space, every colony, outpost, and city received the transmission. Hayes's voice carried across the stars. "This is Admiral Hayes of the Terran Defense Command. The Empire has been repelled, but this is not over. The enemy will return, and we must be ready. The galaxy will know that humanity stands united again." Applause erupted in every command center. On the colonies of Mars, Titan, and the frontier worlds, people cheered and cried. After centuries of being underestimated and hunted, humanity had struck back. But not everyone celebrated. Far beyond the border, deep within Imperial space, the Emperor himself watched the replay of the battle. His golden armor gleamed as his claws dug into the throne's armrest. Humanity was supposed to be finished, he hissed. A minor species from a forgotten world. How did they build this? Beside him, the High Seer trembled. "Majesty, their technology, it doesn't match their age. It's as if they had help. Older help." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Older help? Some of those ships bore designs from long-dead civilizations, ones we destroyed. Silence fell. The Emperor's voice turned to a growl. Then they are not just human. They are something else now. He turned toward the holomap. Summon the Praetorian legions and awaken the Forge worlds. If they want war, we will give them a war they will never forget. Back at the Unity Citadel, Hayes met with his officers in the war room. Around the massive table, holograms of other admirals flickered. Representatives from the lost fleets, the alien allies who had joined humanity's side, and the leaders of the outer colonies. Admiral Singh spoke first. They'll regroup, sir. You know they will. The Empire can't afford to lose face like that. Hayes nodded. That's why we won't wait for them to come to us. We take the fight to them. Gasps echoed around the room. You want to invade Imperial space? Another officer asked. That's suicide. Their core worlds are fortified beyond reason. Hayes leaned forward. Not invade. Strike. He pointed to the holographic star map. These are the Empire's supply routes. Energy from their forge worlds fuels their fleets. Cut that, and they starve. The plan was simple but dangerous. Hit the Empire where it least expected. Quick, precise attacks. No occupation, no conquest, just pressure. Humanity had learned long ago that survival was about adaptation. The Empire fought with brute force. Humans fought with strategy, speed, and sheer stubbornness. As the meeting ended, Hayes walked to the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly before him, and beyond them lay the Empire's heart. He knew the next war would be far worse. But there was something deeper stirring in the void, something even the Empire didn't know about. Behind the Unity Citadel, far beyond the edge of human territory, ancient signals began to awaken. Dormant stations, hidden beneath dead moons, powered up for the first time in centuries. One by one, enormous constructs rose from forgotten worlds, massive ships, old and scarred, yet alive with new energy. They bore markings of Earth's first pioneers, those who had vanished when humanity first reached the stars. A voice older than Hayes spoke over the encrypted channel. We have returned, Admiral. The First Fleet stands ready for orders. Hayes's heart pounded. We thought you were lost. Not lost, the voice replied. Waiting. Watching. Preparing for this moment. Hayes looked out into the darkness and whispered. Then it begins. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Kareth kneeled before the Emperor. His armor was scorched, his pride shattered. You failed me, the Emperor said softly, almost kindly. But you will have a chance to redeem yourself. Kareth dared to look up. How? The Emperor gestured, and the floor panels opened. From the depths rose a massive containment sphere filled with shifting light. Inside, something moved, something ancient and powerful. This, said the Emperor, was a weapon created before your kind ever saw the stars. We locked it away for fear it would destroy us. Kareth felt a chill run down his spine. And now you mean to unleash it? Yes. Let the humans see what true terror looks like. As the containment field lowered, the light inside began to pulse like a heartbeat. The creature, if it could be called that, opened its eyes. Across the galaxy, sensors flared in warning. Even Hayes felt it, a cold ripple through space that made every human instinct scream danger. He turned to his officers. The Empire just made its move. And somewhere, deep in the void between stars, a dark shape began to wake. The next war had already begun. Space trembled as if the stars themselves were holding their breath. The Galactic Empire had unleashed something ancient, something that should have stayed buried. And across the void, humanity could feel it. Admiral Hayes stood in silence on the observation deck of the Unity Citadel, staring into the dark beyond the known systems. He didn't need sensors to tell him something was wrong. Every instinct screamed it. The stars looked different, dimmer, colder. Sir, said Lieutenant Asha, breaking the silence, we're detecting energy surges along the border sectors. Readings are off the scale, unknown origin. Hayes didn't move. Is it them? She hesitated. It's not like anything we've seen. Not plasma, not quantum fields. It's alive. That word sent a chill through the command bridge. Before Hayes could respond, the transmission room came alive. A coded message appeared on screen marked with the highest Terran priority. It came from deep within Imperial space, an encrypted signal, not from the Empire, but from one of their own. The screen flickered and a figure appeared, Admiral Kareth. His uniform was torn, his eyes shadowed with fear. "Humans," he said, his voice shaking. "Listen carefully. The Emperor has made a mistake. He's unleashed the Erebus Protocol." Hayes narrowed his eyes. "Why warn us, Kareth?" "Because it's not just your world in danger," Kareth said. "That thing? It was made before either of our species existed. It doesn't serve the Empire. It doesn't serve anyone. It only consumes." The feed cut out suddenly, replaced by static and then screams. "The channel went dead! Track that signal!" Hayes barked. "Too late, sir. It's gone. Entire sector just vanished." Hayes clenched his jaw. He turned to his officers. "Prepare the fleet, all of it. We're going hunting." Across human space, the Terran fleets mobilized. Massive engines ignited and starships began forming up in perfect formation. The stars filled with motion. Thousands of vessels, from small frigates to colossal dreadnoughts. Meanwhile, on the edge of Imperial territory, a dark cloud spread through the void. It wasn't gas or debris. It moved with purpose, devouring everything in its path. Imperial ships tried to fight it, firing plasma and missiles into the darkness. But their weapons vanished like raindrops in a storm. The creature that the Emperor had awakened, Erebus, fed on energy, light, and life. Every ship that attacked only made it stronger. From his throne world, the Emperor watched the disaster unfold. "Impossible," he whispered. "It was supposed to obey." The High Seer collapsed beside him. "Majesty, it remembers. It remembers us all." Then the connection cut out. Hours later, humanity's fleets arrived at the border of the dying sector. Hayes stood in the war room as a holographic map displayed the growing black zone. It was expanding fast. Too fast. Admiral Singh stepped forward. "We can't stop that thing with normal weapons." "What's the plan?" Hayes stared at the data for a long moment. Then, quietly, he said, "We don't destroy it. We trap it." The others exchanged confused looks. He explained, "Erebus is energy-based. It feeds on motion, light, and heat. We give it what it wants, but on our terms." He pointed to the map. "Here in this region, a dead system. No stars, no heat. If we draw it there, it'll lose strength. Then we'll seal it." "But what can seal something like that?" asked Asha. Hayes turned to her, eyes cold. "Something older than Erebus." He sent a signal through a private channel. Moments later, the image of a woman appeared, a commander of the First Fleet, one of the long-lost human explorers. Her name was Admiral Etta Kane, and she spoke with the calm of someone who had seen too many wars. "We heard your call, Hayes," she said, "and we brought the key." The war room went silent. Everyone knew the legend, the key of Orion, an ancient human artifact said to control gravity itself. If real, it could trap even a star's energy. Hayes nodded slowly. "Then we have a chance." The fleets moved out. For 3 days, human ships fought a desperate running battle with Erebus, firing bursts of energy to lure it toward the dark system. The creature responded like a predator following prey, devouring everything behind it. Even fragments of light bent toward it, vanishing into its shifting mass. The final stand began near the dead sun of Carthos 9. The black star hung in the void, its gravity pulling faint dust and wreckage into slow spirals. Admiral Hayes stood at the front of the bridge. "Activate the key!" Across the battlefield, Admiral Kane's flagship pulsed with blinding light. The key of Orion unleashed its power, a golden sphere expanding outward, creating a shimmering cage around the dying system. Erebus screamed. Space itself seemed to twist as the creature collided with the barrier. Every ship shook violently. "Hold the line!" Hayes shouted. The barrier flickered. The key strained. And then, for one terrible moment, Erebus broke through, half inside, half out. Its shadow fell over the human fleets. Ships exploded. Crews screamed as their energy shields melted away. Then Kane's voice echoed through the comms. "All fleets, focus fire on the breach!" Thousands of ships fired at once. Railguns, plasma bursts, fusion torpedoes, all converged on the opening. The void filled with light brighter than any star. When the glow faded, Erebus was gone. Only the dark shell of the barrier remained, pulsing softly. Hayes exhaled slowly. "Is it over?" Kane's voice came faintly through static. "For now." "But it's still alive, waiting." Hayes looked toward the silent barrier. "Then we'll be ready when it wakes." Far away, deep within the Imperial Palace, the Emperor stood alone in his throne room, staring into the holographic image of the sealed system. His face was pale. "The humans stopped it," he whispered. "They did what we could not." And then, with quiet fury, he said, "This war is not over." But in the darkness beyond the barrier, Erebus stirred, and somewhere deep inside the shadows, something else answered its call. The sealed system around Carthos 9 shimmered faintly, like a wound in the fabric of space. Inside the glowing cage, Erebus slept, its vast shadow coiled and quiet. But the silence felt wrong. It was not peace. It was waiting. Admiral Hayes stood alone in the command deck of the Unity Citadel. The battle had ended only days ago, yet he hadn't slept once. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that black mass twisting through the stars, swallowing ships whole. Even now, with Erebus trapped, his instincts refused to relax. Lieutenant Asha approached carefully. "Sir, the containment field is stable. The key of Orion is holding, but—" Hayes turned. "But what?" She hesitated. "Energy readings are climbing. Erebus isn't fading. It's adapting." He exhaled slowly. "I expected that." Moments later, a new transmission appeared on the holoscreen. Admiral Kane's face appeared, her uniform scorched and her expression grim. "Hayes, you'd better see this." The image shifted to show the sealed system. Inside the shimmering barrier, points of light flickered, tiny stars forming and dying within seconds. "What am I looking at?" Hayes asked. "Erebus is creating gravity wells," Kane said. "It's learning how to use the trap against us. It's feeding on the field itself." A silence fell across the bridge. Everyone knew what that meant. If Erebus consumed enough energy, it could tear the barrier apart, and then nothing would stop it. Hayes clenched his jaw. "Prep the long-range arrays. We need answers." Far away, deep in the Imperial capital, the Emperor listened to reports from his broken fleets. Whole sectors were gone, erased by Erebus's hunger. He sat on his dark throne, surrounded by terrified advisors. One of them dared to speak. "Majesty, the humans have contained it." Perhaps we should form a truce." The Emperor's gaze burned like fire. "Truce? With them? They stole our victory. They humiliated us before the galaxy. But if Erebus breaks free, then the galaxy will burn with it," the Emperor said. "If the humans want to play gods, let them choke on their creation." He waved his clawed hand and the holograms vanished. "Send word to every surviving fleet. Prepare the Nova engine." "Send word to every surviving fleet. Prepare the Nova engine." The officers gasped. The Nova engine was a forbidden weapon built to collapse a star and unleash its power as a weapon of mass destruction. "But Majesty," one stammered, "using it so near Erebus could—" "I know exactly what it will do," the Emperor said coldly. "If we cannot control the darkness, we will bury it beneath fire." Meanwhile, aboard the Unity Citadel, Admiral Hayes stared at the new sensor readings. "Erebus is reaching through the barrier. It's calling something," Asha frowned. "Calling to what?" Before Hayes could answer, alarms blared. Across several human outposts near the outer rim, strange signals appeared, echoes of Erebus's frequency. Within hours, dead ships in those systems began to move again. Kane's voice came through the comms, tense. "Hayes, we've got a bigger problem. Erebus isn't alone. It's spreading fragments of itself, echo shadows. It's turning wreckage into soldiers. On the screens, ghostly ships of light and shadow took shape, distorted forms of destroyed vessels, animated by dark energy. They moved in eerie silence, their weapons glowing faintly with stolen power. "Then this isn't a prison," Hayes said quietly. "It's a seed." He turned to his officers. Prepare all fleets. Contact the Alliance worlds. We're moving to Containment Phase 2. As the orders spread, hundreds of ships jumped into hyperspace. Humanity's fleets fanned out to intercept the growing shadow armies before they reached populated systems. The galaxy that had once watched humanity as prey now looked toward them for salvation. In one distant system, a human captain watched in horror as her sensors detected a swarm of Erebus fragments closing in. She whispered to her crew, "If this is how it ends, we make it count." Her ship, the Vigilant Dawn, turned toward the swarm and charged its engines. The crew said nothing. They all knew what she intended. The Vigilant Dawn rammed straight into the center of the mass, detonating its reactor in a blinding burst. The explosion cleared the entire field. When Hayes received the report, he said nothing. He simply lowered his head. "Remember them," he said softly. "Every name, every ship." But even as humanity fought, Erebus's power continued to grow. Then came a message that froze every heart in the command center. It was from the Empire. The Emperor himself appeared on the hololink, his face pale but defiant. "Human," he said, his voice like thunder, "your containment has failed. I intend to destroy Erebus, and if your worlds lie in the blast, so be it." Hayes narrowed his eyes. "You'd destroy half the galaxy to kill one enemy?" The Emperor sneered. "You think you're the only ones who can make sacrifices?" The transmission cut off. Within minutes, human sensors picked up the unmistakable signature of the Nova engine, its charge building near the Imperial star Norith Prime. The weapon's power could ignite an entire system. Hayes turned to his crew. "If he fires that thing while Erebus is still connected through the echoes, the explosion could spread across space itself." Kane's voice came through again, sharp and urgent. "Then we stop him. Whatever it takes." The Unity Citadel and the First Fleet prepared for warp. For the first time in history, humanity and its allies would have to fly straight into the heart of the Empire, not for conquest, but to stop the end of everything. As the fleet jumped into hyperspace, Hayes whispered to himself, "The galaxy thinks we're fighting a war between species. They don't see it yet. This is bigger than any empire, any flag. This is survival." And somewhere beyond the stars, deep within the containment field, Erebus opened its eyes again. The black void rippled and smiled. The Unity Citadel tore through hyperspace, its engines burning blue against the darkness. The stars stretched into lines and the hull groaned as it cut through the cosmic tide. Inside, the command deck pulsed with activity. Every officer, every soldier knew this could be their final mission. Admiral Hayes stood at the center of the bridge, silent and focused. The plan was simple: reach North Prime before the Emperor fired the Nova engine. Simple, but nearly impossible. Lieutenant Asha approached, her voice quiet but steady. "Sir, the Imperial Weapon Corps is already charging. If they finish the sequence—" "I know," Hayes interrupted. "Then Erebus won't die, it'll spread faster. The explosion will feed it." Asha hesitated. "The Emperor won't listen to us. He thinks destruction equals control." Hayes turned, his voice calm but cold. "Then we'll make him listen the hard way." Outside, space rippled. Dozens of Terran ships exited hyperspace beside the Unity Citadel, followed by the massive ancient vessels of the First Fleet. Their hulls glowed faintly, as if carrying memories of past wars. Behind them came ships from allied alien races, ones that had once fought humanity, but now stood beside it. For the first time, the galaxy's scattered survivors had gathered under one banner. "Transmit all channel message," Hayes ordered. "This goes to the entire sector." Asha nodded and activated the comms. Hayes took a deep breath. "This is Admiral Hayes of the Terran Defense Command. To all Imperial units at North Prime, stand down. If you fire that weapon, you will destroy us all. The Erebus entity feeds on energy. Your Nova engine will not destroy it. It will make it unstoppable. I repeat, stand down." Silence followed. Then, through static, the Emperor's voice echoed. "You presume to give me orders, human?" His tone dripped with contempt. "I have ruled 1,000 worlds. You are insects who stumbled into the fire of the gods. You think you can lecture me?" Hayes stared into the transmission feed, his face unreadable. "No," he said quietly. "I think I can stop you." The Emperor leaned back on his throne. Then come, Terran. Let us see which god dies first. The transmission cut, and the stars came alive with light. From behind Norith Prime, the Imperial Armada emerged, miles-wide dreadnoughts bristling with plasma cannons, flanked by wings of interceptors. It was the largest Imperial force ever assembled, their formation perfect and merciless. Battle stations, Hayes said. The human and allied fleets moved as one. Fighters launched. Railguns and ion cannons charged. The void between the two forces filled with tension so thick it felt alive. And then it broke. The first volley of plasma fire streaked across space, followed by a rain of human torpedoes. The collision of energy and metal lit up the darkness like 1,000 suns. Ships vanished in flashes of light, leaving only wreckage and debris. Admiral Kane's voice roared over the comms. "First Fleet, focus on their flanks. Don't let them encircle." "Copy," Hayes replied. "Citadel, engage forward shields. Push through their line." The Unity Citadel thundered ahead, its massive cannons unleashing devastating barrages. Human ships fought with desperate precision, weaving between enemy fire, striking weak points, vanishing before counterattacks could land. The Emperor's fleet responded with equal fury. His command ship, the Obsidian Crown, loomed in the distance, surrounded by an aura of dark energy. The Nova engine pulsed below it, its charge growing brighter with every passing minute. Hayes clenched his fists. He's going to fire it even if it kills him. "Then we stop the charge manually," Asha said. "How?" She smiled faintly. "The old-fashioned way." Hayes met her eyes. "A boarding strike." He turned to his fleet. "All units cover the Citadel. We're taking the fight to the Emperor himself." A squadron of assault carriers broke formation and sped toward the Obsidian Crown. Anti-air fire lit up the darkness, but the human ships darted through, losing half their number before making contact. The Citadel slammed against the Imperial flagship's shield barrier, its hull trembling as the boarding clamps locked in. Marines poured through the airlocks, engaging Imperial guards in brutal close-quarters combat. Inside the palace-like corridors of the Obsidian Crown, Admiral Hayes led the strike team himself. The halls glowed red from emergency lights, and the air was thick with smoke and plasma fire. An explosion shook the deck. Asha fired her rifle, dropping an Imperial soldier, then shouted, "Command center's up ahead!" They kicked through the final blast door, and there he was. The Emperor sat upon his throne, armor gleaming black and gold. Energy arced from his gauntlets, feeding directly into the Nova engine's control system. His eyes burned with power and madness. "Do you see now, human?" he said, rising to his feet. "You fight against destiny. This galaxy belongs to strength!" Hayes leveled his weapon. "And you mistake strength for survival." The Emperor raised his hand, unleashing a surge of dark energy. Hayes dove aside as the floor exploded, molten metal spraying across the room. The battle was chaos, blinding light, deafening sound. Asha tried to flank, but an energy blast struck her armor, throwing her back. She cried out, and Hayes turned just in time to see her fall. "No!" He rushed to her, but the Emperor stood between them, smiling. "Your kind always dies for others, noble, pointless." Hayes's rage flared. He charged, tackling the Emperor against the console. Sparks flew. The Nova engine's control rods pulsed, glowing hotter, brighter. "Do you even understand what you've done?" Hayes shouted, forcing the Emperor's hand away from the controls. The Emperor sneered. "Yes, I've ensured our names will be remembered forever." He slammed his hand down on the final command key. The Nova engine ignited. Light filled the command chamber, pure, blinding, unstoppable. Hayes grabbed the Emperor, pulling him away as alarms screamed. "You fool! You've doomed us all!" But even as the explosion began, Hayes saw something unexpected. The light wasn't spreading. It was folding inward, drawn toward a single point. Then he heard a voice, faint, ancient, familiar. "Admiral Kane!" Ancient, familiar. "Admiral Kane! Hayes, the First Fleet's using the key again. We're channeling the blast." Outside, the Nova engine's destructive power twisted into the same golden sphere that had trapped Erebus before. The two energies collided, merging into a storm of chaos and brilliance. "On board the Obsidian Crown!" the Emperor screamed as the light consumed his ship. Hayes, shielding Asha, watched the stars vanish around them. Then there was silence, and in that silence, far beyond any human sensor, the void began to whisper once more. Erebus was not gone. It had simply found something new to feed on. And this time, it had learned how to speak. The light faded slowly, like the last breath of a dying star. Where the Obsidian Crown once hung above North Prime, now there was only silence and debris drifting through the darkness. The explosion had stopped the Nova engine's full detonation, but the cost had been enormous. Half of both fleets, human and Imperial, were gone. The void was full of wreckage and ghosts. The Unity Citadel floated at the edge of the devastation, its hull scorched, its shields barely holding. Inside, emergency lights flickered as engineers worked frantically to stabilize power. Admiral Hayes opened his eyes slowly, the ringing in his ears fading into the soft hum of damaged systems. He was alive, somehow. He looked around. The command. Deck was half ruined, consoles shattered, smoke filling the air. Then he heard a cough. Lieutenant Asha lay beside him, bruised and bloodied, but breathing. Hayes reached out. "Easy. You're still with me." She managed a weak smile. "Told you. Old-fashioned boarding works." He almost laughed. Almost. Outside the viewport, the remnants of the Obsidian Crown spun silently, torn apart by its own weapon. But as Hayes watched, he saw something strange. Dark tendrils of light weaving through the wreckage. They moved like smoke, alive, searching. Hayes's blood ran cold. No, not again. Moments later, sensors flared. The fragments of Erebus were gathering, drawn by the energy released from the Nova engine's collapse. The creature had survived, and worse, it was growing stronger. On a secondary screen, Admiral Kane's face appeared, static distorting her image. "Hayes, can you hear me?" "I can," he said. "What's your status?" "Bad," she answered. "The key is gone. The First Fleet took the full brunt of the explosion. Most of us didn't make it. But Erebus, Hayes, it's changing. The energy we used to trap it before, it's mimicking it. It's learning from us." A silence heavier than gravity filled the bridge. Hayes felt the truth sink deep into his bones. Every move humanity made to fight this thing, it copied. Every weapon, every tactic, it was watching, adapting, evolving. "How long before it reaches critical mass?" Hayes asked. Kane's voice crackled. "Hours, maybe less. It's heading toward the Imperial core, toward what's left of their home world. Toward the Emperor's throne world," Kane said. "It's feeding on his weapon's energy. If it gets there, it'll turn the Empire's core into a black hole," Hayes finished grimly. "And it won't stop there." He turned to his crew. "Evacuate survivors. Every ship that can still move, regroup at the Vega line. We're not running. We're rebuilding." Asha frowned. "You're planning another strike?" "Not just a strike," Hayes said. "A final one." He walked to the viewport, staring at the growing mass of shadow light that was Erebus. "This thing isn't just a weapon. It's evolution gone wrong. If we don't stop it now, it'll consume everything. The Empire, the Alliance, even the stars themselves." Far across the galaxy, deep in the Imperial ruins, Erebus began to manifest. The remnants of the Emperor's palace floated in orbit around the blackened planet. And in the ruins of his throne, something moved. A voice, familiar, broken, echoed from within the darkness. "You tried to destroy me," it said, deep and hollow. "But I learned from you." From the shadow emerged a figure, shifting, flickering, its form a fusion of flesh and energy. The Emperor's face, twisted and distorted, glowed faintly within the darkness. "I am no longer bound by empire or species," the creature said. I am rebirth. I am the void between stars. Erebus had taken a new shape, something terrifyingly intelligent. Back on the Unity Citadel, the fleet regrouped. Hundreds of surviving ships joined in formation, human, alien, and even a few Imperial stragglers who had realized the truth. For once, the galaxy stood united not by power, but by fear. Admiral Kane's remaining ships limped into position beside the Citadel. Her voice came through the comms. "Hayes, the First Fleet is gone, but their sacrifice bought us time. What's the plan?" Hayes looked around at the battered faces of his officers. "We hit it before it can stabilize. No tricks, no traps. We hit it with everything we have." Asha frowned. "That won't be enough. Erebus adapts too fast. Then we give it something it can't adapt to," Hayes said quietly. He tapped the console, opening an encrypted file. Inside was something few in the fleet had ever seen. A data fragment from Earth's earliest days of space war. A forgotten weapon design banned for centuries. The Nemesis Protocol. Asha's eyes widened. Sir, that's suicide. It converts all available mass into antimatter." "I know," Hayes said. "That's why it'll work." Kane's voice crackled again. "If you do this, there won't be anything left. Not even you." Hayes looked out at the stars. "We started this war by waking something older than time. It's only right that we end it ourselves." Silence followed. Then, one by one, commanders across the fleet confirmed their readiness. Every ship, every pilot, every survivor knew what it meant. And still, not one turned away. Erebus loomed in the distance now, a swirling storm of black and gold light. It had grown vast, its surface crackling like molten metal, its voice echoing across every comm frequency. "I understand you now," it whispered. "You fight because you fear the end. But I am not the end. I am what comes after." Hayes closed his eyes. "Then let's see if you can survive us." The Unity Citadel charged its core. Across the fleet, engines glowed brighter than suns. The Nemesis Protocol synchronized, an ancient, terrible system linking every ship's reactor into one cascading chain. Asha looked at him, her voice barely a whisper. "Are you ready?" Hayes smiled faintly. "No, but let's do it anyway." The fleet surged forward. Erebus moved to meet them, a tide of living darkness swallowing the stars. When they collided, the universe seemed to scream. Light, shadow, and sound vanished all at once, folded, crushed, consumed, and in that instant, humanity's final weapon ignited. The explosion wasn't fire. It was silence. A flash brighter than creation itself spread across the galaxy, and then, for a heartbeat, everything stopped. When the light faded, the stars returned. The void was empty. Erebus was gone. The Unity Citadel, gone too. But somewhere, deep within the heart of that silent explosion, a faint pulse lingered, a rhythm, a heartbeat. And far, far away, on a quiet blue planet called Earth, the stars flickered once, like they were whispering back. The stars were calm again. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy slept without war, without fire, without screams. The great void that had swallowed fleets and empires was still. The black storms were gone. The silence was peaceful. But to those who had survived, it was not the silence of victory, it was the silence that follows sacrifice. Years passed. The wreckage of the Unity Citadel was never found. Many believed it had been vaporized in the blast that ended Erebus. Others whispered that it still drifted somewhere beyond known space, its engines cold, its crew frozen in time. Whatever the truth, Admiral Hayes's name became legend. Across the colonies, his story was told to children as the tale of the man who faced the dark and didn't blink. On the human homeworld Earth, life began again. Cities were rebuilt, and the stars once more became symbols of hope, not fear. The Terran Alliance, now joined by dozens of alien civilizations, formed the Galactic Accord, a council created to ensure that no empire, no species, would ever again try to rule the stars through fear. Yet even in peace, memories lingered. Lieutenant Asha sat on the balcony of a rebuilt orbital station, her hair silver now, her gaze lost among the stars. She had survived the final battle, rescued at the edge of the blast zone, adrift among the ruins. Every night since, she looked into the same part of the sky where Hayes and the Citadel had vanished. Sometimes, when the static of the deep space relays grew quiet, she swore she could still hear his voice. Hold the line. She smiled softly. I always do, sir. Then one evening, as she sat alone, the stars flickered again. A faint pulse rippled across her console, steady, rhythmic, too deliberate to be natural. She frowned, adjusting the frequency. That can't be... The signal grew stronger, repeating in a pattern she knew by heart, an old Terran distress code used only by the Unity Citadel. Her breath caught. No, it's impossible. The message was short but clear. We are still here. Across the galaxy, deep in uncharted space, something massive stirred. Far beyond any known route, a structure floated among the remains of dead stars. It was enormous, almost planet-sized, its surface covered in scars and metal veins. Looked like a fortress, and at its heart burned a single blue light. Inside that fortress, the remnants of the Unity Citadel lived. Its hull was twisted and reforged, its systems fused with something new, energy patterns unlike anything built by human or alien hands. The Nemesis explosion hadn't destroyed them. It had moved them, thrown them beyond the known galaxy, into a place where even time flowed differently. Admiral Hayes awoke slowly, his body weak but alive. The chamber around him glowed faintly with soft blue light. He could feel the hum of energy, not mechanical but alive, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. He sat up and looked around. Dozens of stasis pods lined the walls, each holding members of his crew, still breathing, still human. Then a voice spoke, soft but deep. Not mechanical, not human. Something else. You survived, it said. Hayes turned toward the sound. A figure stood in the light, made of energy and shadow. It was Erebus, or what was left of it. But its voice was calm now, no longer full of hunger. Hayes froze. You should be dead. I was, the being said. But when your weapon ignited, it did not destroy me. It changed me. You forced me to see what you were fighting for. Hayes clenched his fists. You expect me to believe that you've changed? I expect nothing, Erebus said quietly. But know this, I am not your enemy anymore. The Nemesis blast joined us. Your essence, your will, your light, it burned into me. I carry it now. I am no longer only darkness. Hayes stared at the being, unsure if it was truth or madness. Yet as he looked closer, he saw something familiar within the swirling energy. A faint, flickering image of the Citadel's bridge. His crew. His flag. You merged with the ship. Yes, Erebus replied. I became what you made me fight against, balance. Light and dark. Life and void. You called me destruction, but perhaps I was always meant to be rebirth. Hayes stepped closer. Then help us go home. The being tilted its head. Home? You are already there. The galaxy you knew. Centuries have passed. The stars you remember are gone. Humanity has changed. Hayes felt the air leave his lungs. Centuries. The war he fought had become legend. The people he swore to protect long dead. Erebus continued, but they remember you. They built a galaxy where peace is their weapon. You won, Hayes, even if you never returned. He stood there in silence, the weight of years pressing against him. Finally, he asked, why show me this? Why keep me alive? Because the void is never truly empty, Erebus said. New storms are coming. Not of my making, of yours. And they will need you again. The being's light dimmed, and the massive fortress shuddered. Your crew will awaken soon. The galaxy will call for you once more. When it does, remember, light and dark are not enemies. They are halves of the same truth. Hayes watched as Erebus's form faded into the light, leaving only the faint echo of its voice. He stood there, alone among the stars, feeling the hum of the ship beneath him, the heartbeat of something greater than human, greater than machine. For a long time he said nothing. Then, softly, he whispered the same words that had carried humanity through its darkest hour. "Hold the line." And as the ancient engines of the Unity Citadel roared back to life, somewhere far away, on the peaceful worlds of the new Galactic Accord, telescopes began to detect a new signal, an old voice, calling through the silence of time. Humanity turned its eyes to the stars once more. Because the legend of the Citadel was not over. It was only beginning again.